Welcome to the Golf Report podcast. I'm joined by Tabitha Schumacher, the head women's golf coach at Central College. Coach, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Gavin?
Good. So can you tell me about Central College?
Yeah, Central College is in Pella, Iowa, which is about an hour southeast of Des Moines, Iowa, which is the biggest city in Des Moines. Um, Pretty rural area, about 10,000 people in Pella. Small D3 school with roughly 1,100 undergraduate students. And D3 where academics matters a lot. A lot of the players on our team are really here to make sure that they're ready for the next 40 years of a career after they graduate, and golf is that extra added bonus.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's a little bit about Central.
Yeah. So we'll get into some tournaments, in more detail, but just overall first, how would you assess your team's fall season, this year?
Yeah, I felt when you come in with seven incoming freshmen and have six returners,
Okay.
there's a lot,
Mhm.
you really, there's a lot of unknowns. We had one returning player from our top five the past year. I'm a senior, and then we had another senior who stepped up and came into a starting role, Parker. But with that, there's a lot of unknowns. So I feel like overall we had a really, really good year. And having and probably talk about it a little bit more, but having a freshman take second at conference really helped a lot. I think there's definitely with the young team, there's a lot of growing that still has to happen, and some freshmen play like freshmen, but overall pretty satisfied and happy with the season.
Yeah. So let's talk about, your fall season. Your team got a 10-stroke victory at the Buena Vista Open. This is probably, one of the highlights of the fall season. So can
Yeah.
you just tell me about this tournament and your team, getting the 10-stroke victory?
Yeah, it was a cool tournament win. The last time I had gone there was my first year as a coach, back in 2020. So definitely, of course, when I got there, I started remembering a little bit more. It's traditional, old style, but lots of trees. And I think played a little bit more challenging than I even remembered in the past. But I feel like coming out of BBU and winning that tournament just gave us a little bit of momentum moving forward throughout the season and to finish up at conference. So it was nice to be able to have that and have 10 players there so that even our B team could kind of share in that experience of what it looks like to win a tournament.
Hmm. Then also tell me about this. Your JV team got the victory at the Oz Calusa shootout. Just tell me about your
Yes.
JV team. Just tell me about this tournament and your JV
Yeah.
team getting the victory at this tournament.
Yeah. Yeah, it was another tournament where I'd never been. I'm gonna be honest
Mhm.
with you. I thought the tournament was at a different course up until about a couple of days beforehand. So, of course, we had never seen, and a very, very difficult course. Our JV events are at probably the two toughest golf courses we play all year, which is kind of hard because they want to do well. So we got there and it was a 10-stroke rule, or double par rule, I think. So the girls were kind of like, what is this? And we see the course and kind of understood why. So I think it was just a mental battle out there of, I think if the best score was an 88, and if the players would have known that, maybe their confidence levels would have been a little better and higher, and we could have kept some like save some more strokes out there. But to get the win, even amidst some adversity, was nice to see.
Yeah. And then your final fall season tournament was at the American Rivers Conference Championship. Your team finished
Yes.
second place, and you had a freshman, I believe, Allie Fance from Iowa. She finished second individually. So just tell me about your team's, second place finish at the conference championships, how you felt the conference championships won. And then just tell me about Allie Fance. I believe she was named conference, rookie of the year. Just tell me about, she's done I was looking at your results. She's done very well this fall season. Just tell me about her and about your
Yeah.
other freshmen, how just talk about, your other freshmen. You were talking about their growth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that conference kind of with how the season was going, we knew that Dubuque was
Mhm.
kind of the team to beat. And looking at with where scores were at the past 2 years and what you needed to shoot at conference. And even to one big note about our conference course is that it has always had really hard greens, roll out a lot. They weren't very receptive. They got
Okay.
a new superintendent within this last year, and the greens were stopping like nothing. So the first 2 days we get there, or the first 2 days, the wind was like 25 to 30-mile-per-hour winds. So the course was actually playing tougher than it ever had been before. Scores were higher. So to be in a spot where we were what 3 strokes back, or was it 4 strokes out of first going into the last day, we were pretty happy and confident, pumped up, amped to be in a spot where we still had a chance. And then to
Mhm.
fall short 7 strokes, it stinks. Like it's hard, it hurts, it stinks, but it's a motivator. The last year when we won conference, we had lost to Dubuque by 7 strokes, took second. So it's one of those things of it's just going to motivate the team to work harder. There's definitely, when you look at a 54-hole tournament, there's always players who are like, oh, if I could have done this a little different, or these strokes here. It's easy to come up with 7 strokes over 54 holes, but that's golf. So overall, really proud of them. And then yeah, Allie taking second. Like I said, when you're a freshman on your team at the collegiate level, typically they play like freshmen. They make some mistakes. They let bad shots get to them, and that's not Allie. Allie plays. She's probably the slowest player in her final group, taking her time, knowing that she needed to keep her emotions in check and stay really level-headed, and she did. Huge hole for her on hole 10. She tripled it. She made a long, like 20-footer for triple on 10. And the person, Morgan Hawkinson, who was Hawkins, sorry, from Dubuque, she doubled the hole. And that's who she ended up losing to by 2, but she came back and played really, really well after that. It would be really easy to kind of let the tournament go or let the round go after that. And she played super strong, very proud of her. And I know that she has a really, really great future ahead of her. And then the other freshmen too. We had one other freshman in our top 5, Amber Timmer. Um, it's been an adjustment for her. She's from San Diego, California, has not played in much cold weather whatsoever. So when we're in the 60-degree weather, she feels like that's cold to her and windy. So I think this spring will be a little bit of an adjustment, but still a solid player. I think she has a lot. And then we have a lot of, yeah, 4 or 5
Mhm.
other freshmen who are working hard to get better as well, which when you have a big class like that and they get along, they're going to get better together, grow as a team. And I'm excited about that.
Yeah. So coach, you've been the head coach at Central since 2020.
Mhm.
So you've been there for a few years now. But this year, as you mentioned before, you have 7 freshmen, you have a large, roster, and you only have 3 seniors. So, what's it like, having a large roster and, having, a majority, be, 7 freshmen, how has that been for you as coach and just for your team, this year?
Yeah, it's definitely an adjustment. And that's the thing about college golf is every year is very, very different. When I got here, I had 8 players on my team, 3 sophomores and 5 freshmen. So then to go to a spot where
Yeah.
those players graduated and like played really well, did awesome, but from like that during COVID and all the rules and everything to now is different. And it's changing all the time. I like the bigger there's pros and cons to the bigger team, but when I talk to my team about it or even talk to recruits, a bigger team is only going to make you better. And I do try to balance it out where maybe not every player on the team is like, hey, I want to be a conference champion. I want to be in the top 5. I think there's a good balance where I think a solid like 10 players who want that is great. But I want players who want to get better and want to be a part of the team. The team is close, they're going to get better. And they're going to be in a spot where it's motivating because they want to be at golf tournaments. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I've seen with the team that helps them get better. I think the biggest jump from one season to the next, I had a player averaging 92 the season before, came back in the fall and was averaging 80, helped us win the conference championship. So and I don't tell players it's going to happen all the time, but if you put the work in, it can happen. And that's the great thing about golf is it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes we have slumps, but when it clicks, it can click and scores can drop a lot.
Yeah. So you mentioned this before, but 2022, your team won the conference championship. You were named, coach of the year in your conference, and your team played in the Division III national championship in 2023. So just, tell me about, the 2022 23 season, how special that was, and
Yeah.
just, what it was like to play in the national championship, win the conference championship. How was that? for you and your team?
Yes, no, it was awesome to
Mhm.
come in with those like so I had three sophomores at that time. It was actually two of the original sophomores were on the conference championship team. I did bring in a transfer student as well. Um, her junior year, so she wasn't there that first year, but to watch them and all the work that they put in and be able to achieve that goal was awesome. We had one of our players decided not to study abroad because she wanted to go to the national championships, and we did, which was really great. But funny story, I actually was not at the conference championships at all. I wasn't there.
Okay.
So the one year we won, our men's coach was there. I was 36 and a half weeks pregnant, thought
Okay.
I needed to get to 37 weeks pregnant so that I could be there. And I had my baby the day conference started. So I was not there. They came, one of my favorite pictures, probably most cherished pictures, is they came afterwards. They brought me the trophy. And there's a picture of the five of them surrounding my daughter Stella, while with, yeah, afterwards because I came and visited in the hospital. So it was, yeah, whirlwind of emotions from going to really sad that I wasn't going to be there to probably one of the best weekend, probably the best weekend of my life of they win, I have a daughter and everything kind of worked out. It just was unfortunate not to be there, but then going to nationals, super, super cool experience. Get to
Yeah.
go to Florida, Howie in the Hills, really interesting experience with the whole six and the green, and they canceled a round and there's a bunch of weather, and so I feel like the tournament kind of got its 15 minutes of fame, but overall really cool experience and definitely a motivator to keep working hard, and that's the goal every year is to want to go back. And we've been close. We've taken second every year since my start in 2020. But really cool, broke a lot of records. Delaney's tied for second all-time scoring record that year. And then yeah, crushed the school record for scoring average. So yeah, super proud of the team and all the work that they put in. It was fun.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, you had a daughter. So just talk about, having a daughter, how's it been, having a daughter, raising her and then also your, coaching duties because, just in general, raising any child, can be difficult, but on top of that, you're a head coach. So just talk about, how you balance that and just
Yeah.
how that's been for you.
Yeah, I actually have two kids now. So
Okay.
last spring I had in March, March 20th. So my planning I wasn't hasn't been the greatest. So started the spring season, then
Mhm.
took a spring break. I had a son named Jack. So I have a 2-year-old and a 7-month-old right now. And it's really busy. It's a lot. We have a daycare that we like a lot, which helps. But it's a lot of my husband is watching the kids when I'm gone on the weekends for golf, but overall it's been good. They've been nothing but good to me, and we're busy when we're in season, but there also is some flexibility involved as long as we're doing our job recruiting. That if I need to be the parent who gets the call if my one of my kids is sick or has needs to go to a doctor's appointment, I have the flexibility to do that. And it's fun too watching the team and like getting to raise a family with the team around as well. They've helped babysit a little bit, not all the time.
Yeah,
So
well, congrats on that. And I'm sure you're busy, but yeah, congrats on that.
thank
So,
you.
next,
Yeah.
what drew you to become a college coach? Coach, can you just tell me about that? And then just, you've been at Central College since
Yeah.
2020. How has, about the past 4 years, how has your time been at Central College since 2020? So just, tell me what drew you to, get into coaching and just how have the past few years been at Central College?
Yeah, I'd say just my experience with golf is kind of what drew me to coaching. Originally, when I went
Mhm.
to college, I just all I cared about was playing golf. I was gonna figure out the major later, and so as I started going, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be a golf pro. I want to be a golf pro. That's great. I'd be around golf, easy. And the more people I talked about it, I realized that golf pros don't play golf; they manage golf courses or give lessons. So I realized quickly that my time was going to be eaten by the golf course. I didn't have any other time for anything else. So if I wanted to raise a family and have kids, golf pro was a really tough one. And it wasn't going to be easy. So that's where I think my transition I started to think maybe it's coaching. And then that's where too I've like had a lot of opportunities to be a grad assistant and then had opportunities other places that kind of helped me realize that that's like my first day being a grad assistant. I knew right along like this is what I want to do. This is fun.
Mhm.
It's exciting. I get an extension of my playing career, and get to help people put forward their best effort to compete at a high level. And that's what
Yeah.
I wanted to do. And that, yeah, at Central, I've been here for 4 years since COVID, which is kind of crazy that it's been that long and short. I feel like there's times where it feels like it's way in the past, and there's times where it feels like that was just yesterday. But it's been really, really fun to be with a group of women that want to work hard and get better each day. And then that we've continued to be, it's hard in college sports to be one of the top teams in a conference every year. It is. It's not easy to continue to do that, bring in new players graduate. And we've continued to do that. And I think what I'm even more proud of is you look at the players who have graduated and they're all doing really, really great things. We have one player who's at one graduate. She's at Duke studying biomedical statistics, or biostatistics, not biomedical. Another's in Memphis at optometry school. We have one at PT school in Iowa. We have two teachers. We have an accountant in her hometown. So, and then one who's in Pella working at Pella Corp. So they all have had jobs. They're all successful in their fields, either whether it's they got a job right away or not. But that's really, really important to be able to show recruits and their parents that, hey, these people, they're getting good grades, they're getting to where they want, even at a small school, has been awesome.
Mhm. So coach, you grew up in Duluth, Minnesota. Can you tell me about growing up in Minnesota? How you got started playing golf? And we're approaching the winter
Yeah.
right now, so just tell me about some of the things you would do, golf wise during the winter, growing up in Minnesota.
Yeah. Yeah, growing up in Duluth, all the golf courses near my hometown are already closed for the year. And they
Okay.
have been they've all closed. A couple of them have been closed for a while. Some of them just closed this weekend. But it's literally like 5, 6 month golf season. They'll be closed. They'll open up end of April, early May. So I grew up in a place where winter was the longest season. I played hockey growing up. I played golf. I played lots of sports. But ultimately, what got me into golf was my dad. My parents worked opposite shifts my whole life growing up. So I could either go to my aunt's house for daycare or I could go golfing with my dad. So it originally started where if I went to the golf course with him, he had his push cart, and I'd ride on top of the golf bag. Got my first set of clubs for Christmas one year, and we got pictures of the excitement that I had when I went. But we played golf almost every day in the summer. So that was a thing of I wasn't in an area where there was a ton of competition. But I loved it. And there were tournaments where if I entered a tournament, my dad would pay for it, and if I won, I got a gift card to the pro shop. That was such a big motivator for me when I was younger. So it was really, really great to be able to do that, have tournaments as I got older, started branching out across the state of Minnesota, playing in more, and ultimately realized that my hockey career wasn't going to go very far because I only played in season because I was focusing on golf. So it turned into a spot where I wanted to work hard. I actually quit hockey my senior year to take golf lessons. An indoor place opened up. That was the first year that there was in place with indoor lessons. Other than that, we had had a dome for a couple of years, but that closed down. So really, in living in Duluth, there wasn't much to do in the summer or in the winter time. I took a big break, and it helped me re-fall in love with golf every single year. So I took a break, wasn't playing until that's when the winter before my senior season is the first time that I'd really done much in the off season ever. And it transformed my game where I went from probably a 80 mid 80 scoring average to about a 75, 77, like mid to upper 70 scoring average. And that's what really helped me propel me to play college golf, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah. That's interesting to know. I'm, more interested to know, you mentioned about, taking a break, from golf during the winter months. It's
Mhm.
you can only play 5 or 6 months, but you said, taking the break, is what made you fall more in love with, golf. So, if you can attribute that to anything, why do you think, taking a break made you fall more in love with golf rather than, if you got to play all the time?
Yeah, I think golf is just a game where it takes a long, long, long time
Mhm.
to get better, and especially as your scoring average starts getting lower.
Mhm.
Like it's way easier to go from 95. It's really, really hard to drop that to 70 or to be where the pros are. It's hard.
Mhm.
So I think you can get to a spot where you're just blocked out where mentally it's really tough to be like, okay, this work that I'm putting in, I'm not seeing improvements in my effort. So I think there's times where it's really easy and expect being from Minnesota to be in a spot where I don't know if I have like the motivation to go out and make that difference because it's not like it's not something that we do all the time. So then when I was growing up, the golf season on the PGA Tour didn't start back up until January. So once January rolled around, you had that first tournament in Hawaii. You're like, okay, now I'm really, really excited. And you had the Masters, and our courses might not be open yet. You're starting to get really, really antsy that courses are going to open and you miss it. You haven't done it for a while. Your first couple swings feel a little weird. It takes a little bit to get used to it again, but once you hit some good shots, you want to do it all the time again.
Yeah. So coach, you played at Minnesota State University, Mankato. Can you just tell me about your time, playing there, and just, how was your, college career?
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. My head coach, his name is Nick Campa, and he still kind of volunteers with the team a little bit. He's 86 years old now, and I
Okay.
think he retired when he was like 81. So I was there kind of towards the tail end of it. I was there till he really finished. Um, and I loved it. He had a very old school coaching style. There are some things that I definitely do a little bit differently as a coach, but it was cool seeing a coach that had done it for so long and really cared. And the difference of when his teams were at the national championship, one, I think his best team took third place. Top girl on the team didn't even shoot in the 70s once. So it is a very different, it was very different when he started, and how far college golf has come since then was awesome. But yeah, my college career, when I tell my players, I've done, I think, everything in my college career. Low lights, probably college career. I had two tens, both on the 10th hole of their respective courses, one in Brainerd, Minnesota, and one in New Mexico, Elephant Butte at regionals. I my college career ended. I had 5 holes left. I was 4 over par, and I went triple, triple, quad, quad, par. I parred the last one. But it's a tough end to my senior year of my college career when I was a senior. But my highlight at spring break one year, I won a tournament by 7 strokes. Had another tournament when it was a sophomore, junior. Three of my teammates, myself included, so two other teammates, we tied for first for a tournament. Won the tournament. It was beat the school record at the time. It's been broken since. But really cool to have some awesome experiences. My huge goal when I was there is I want to make it to the national tournament. We never did it. But as a grad assistant, we had an individual make it, and we were in a 3 hole playoff to make it to nationals and lost with only 4 players on our team. Our top player got hurt 3 holes into the day, and we played 36 holes that day. We were in 7th place, top 4 make it, and with our best player gone, we moved all the way up into a tie for to fourth. Probably one of the coolest days ever of coaching in my life, even though we lost, but still really cool experience. And they rallied around it. They knew she was hurt. They knew she was gone. And 39 holes of every shot matters is a lot. Because the sudden death rules is you have 5 players score 4. Well, we only had 4 players. And on the first hole, we had probably a 4 downhill 4-footer to win and missed it. The next hole they had one, missed it. And then the last hole they beat us by couple strokes, but still really cool experience to be able to go to nationals. It was at West Palm Beach, Florida at PGA National. So it was really cool. Our coach was so proud of the team. He ended up bringing everyone that was there, which was pretty sweet. Cool experience.
So coach, as we're gonna get into, your coaching experience and then, your other experiences like being an instructor. But first, I'm interested to know, you played, college golf. Does your college golf experience or the fact that you played college golf yourself, does that help you, as a coach, relate to your players, what they're going through, with their college golf experience? Does that help you
Yeah,
out or? Do you not
I
use your college golf experience too much?
No, I definitely think it helps. And I think the
Mhm.
way where it helps the most is that you realize if you're a good golfer, if you play golf, you know, as you get better, you know instantaneously whether you hit a good shot or not. I don't need to tell my players that that shot sucked or it was bad. Like they already know that.
Okay.
And actually at Mankato, I got my master's in sport and exercise psychology. So I learned a lot about the mental side of golf. So I think what I take as a coach is I take my experience as a player, and I would say that up here in the 6 inches between my ears wasn't the greatest. Like I thought I knew it, but I didn't, and I'd get frustrated. It was good when I played well, but it wasn't great when I didn't. And so I try to take that and how can we show play, like how can I show them in a way that, hey, this makes a difference and it matters. And we need to be able to like the way we practice and how we prepare. We need to practice and prepare here with our mindset just as much as our swing. So those are things that trying to get them to make sure that they're practicing with a purpose and not just hitting balls on the range, just hit balls. They got to go through their pre-shot routine. They have to practice as if they're playing. Those things make a difference. And I think that's kind of where there's times where I'll tell them of like, hey, you just got a 10. I've done it too. Like those are things that they just happen in college. Like it happens. We got to put it in the past and move forward and play one shot at a
Mm.
time.
Yeah.
And that's important. I think they start to understand that more. But even for me and my playing experience, I didn't play as much this summer because of having two kids, but I've still played in tournaments in the past couple of years, and I think my mindset has changed a lot where it's to a point I don't practice as much as I did, but I feel like I can still practice in a way where I can gain confidence. And that's where I want them to be. If even though they're going to practice a lot more than I am, they can be in a spot where we still got to make sure we're getting 1% better every day.
Okay. Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
You still playing some Iowa State Golf Association tournaments, yeah, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, just tell me about, it's interesting to know, just tell me about, how often you get to, play and practice and just, tell me about, just prioritizing, getting to, because I've talked to a lot of coaches and a lot of them say that they don't get to play or practice
Yeah.
too much, but you say you do get to. So just, tell me about that and just, you know, why you like, getting to still, play and practice,
Yeah.
outside of coaching.
Yeah. This last year I've probably played like 10 rounds. It's
Okay.
been way less, but
Yep.
this is a spot like being at the D3 level. It's a lot different. I'm not recruiting all across the world.
Mhm.
Like some of the D1 coaches or different coaches. And it's a situation where, yeah, typically probably not saying that I practice as much, but I do get to play. I used to play quite a bit. I probably would play anywhere like 50 rounds a year at least. And that's kind of in the summer. Our golf season's a little bit short. We have 4 months where we're probably not playing golf.
Okay.
But I love competing. And I think that's what a big motivator of still playing and like if practicing when I can is still playing in tournaments. It just makes it more fun and exciting. Social golf's fine, but it is hard. I'm too competitive. It's hard to play social golf a lot of times. So I'd rather play in a tournament and I've played this year. I played in like a couple scrambles. I played one in one with my dad and sister, but other not as much this year. I'd like to get back to that though in the future. Hopefully my kids will like playing golf. It'll make it easier.
Yeah. So coach, you began your coaching career at Mankato, where you went to school as a graduate assistant, women's golf coach from 2016 to 2019. You also got your master's then. So just tell me about your first, coaching position, how special was it, to coach at, Mankato where you went to school?
Yeah.
What did you learn from your first coaching position? And just tell me about, balancing, you're getting your master's. So that's, also very difficult. And you were also coaching. So just tell me about, balancing getting your master's and coaching and just, how your
Yeah.
first coaching position was.
Yeah. No, that yeah, it was so actually I was in Mankato for 8 years because I changed my
Hmm.
major from sport management to biology. So I was 1 year removed. So I still had a fifth year of undergrad where I didn't have any eligibility left. So I was year removed from being a coach to going to an assistant, which or a player to an assistant, which was very nice. it's a really hard transition from going right to player, right to coach, if in a big role. And I actually my first year only had a job. I wasn't in grad school. I didn't get in. So really, me being the assistant coach was kind of it was nice of I was in a position where I was actually making more than the head coach. He was a
Okay.
retired firefighter and didn't really care about the money. So I was doing that and then I had a part-time serving job at a country club. That's what I was doing. And yeah, I loved it. I was able to I still lived with a couple golfer or one golfer, was still involved with the team that year off, but then being able to kind of see and knew that we had a really good team. It was a lot of fun. Um, like I said, that first tournament that we played in, I knew we were in Bemidji, Minnesota. It's a course that I had played quite a bit. And I just tell after that first round, we went and practiced afterwards that this was what I wanted to do. It was fun
Mhm.
to like work with the players, get them ready, have confidence for the next day. We won the tournament and kind of hit the ground running. The one thing that I realized though pretty quick is that, man, there's players that are have a lot going on up here and are doing things that probably aren't healthy. For instance, I had one player who she would bite herself when she had bad shots. And she'd bite her finger and you could see the bite marks on her hand. And I was like, I know that's not right. And I know she shouldn't do it, but I don't know like how to tell her that. And that's kind of what drew me to sports psychology is I think in order to be a really good golf coach, you want to know the why and you need to know how mentally tough golf is. And if I can help them with tools and figure out, okay, how are we going to mentally prepare for tournaments? That's what I wanted. So it's really cool to be able to go to grad school, help get it paid for because I was a grad assistant, and learn how to coach and get that opportunity and do a lot of things. Didn't have a whole lot of a role on recruiting side, but was able to be at tournaments, be at practices, and ultimately we won a conference championship. Augustana, I think, had won 9 in a row up to that point, and they haven't lost since. It was really cool to be able to see that and finish on a note where we won.
Mhm. So coach, a few experiences, outside of your coaching that I wanted to touch on. You have, various experiences, being an instructor. And you also organize, junior tournaments, in Minnesota. So can you just tell me, overall about your, being an instructor, your experience with that, and then, just working in junior, golf and, junior tournaments. Can you tell me that and, what you did, organizing, junior tournaments?
Yeah. Instructor was fun. It was just my local course. Ultimately, I just kind of wanted to do like ladies lessons,
Okay.
and I had a sign up and these people signed up and I'm sitting there. I was like, wait, it was like a pat. There was these guys, there was a couple guys' names. There was a Tim. I'm looking and I was like, what? And it ended up being, I'd say they were probably in their 60s, 70s, like a retirement age. It was 4 or 5 people. A couple times they brought friends. It was the most fun experience ever. It was really cool just being in a spot. I think when giving golf lessons, not everyone wants to be a scratch golfer. Sometimes they just want to hit the ball, or hit a little bit further, be able to know how to go on the golf course and play. So yeah, it was a cool experience. I know it would be nice and fun to do more of it. I'm just so busy with my kids that it gets hard to take away from that time in the summertime. But yeah, it was fun. And then with the Minnesota Junior PGA, I didn't necessarily like get the kids to play in the tournaments per se. I kind of ran the tournaments. So Minnesota Junior PGA would have kids sign up for the tournaments. I kind of at times, usually it was just in northern Minnesota, but one year I was kind of all over the state of Minnesota running. I think one summer I ran like 30 golf tournaments where usually it was more like 8. But it was still a lot of fun. Got to meet parents, help with rules situations. I think that's the toughest one is a couple of times you get some really interesting rule situations where kids being kids don't necessarily always know. And sometimes there's kids that had to be DQ'd, but still a good opportunity and experience to watch how the game of golf grows and how important junior golf is to growing the game.
Yeah. Another cool experience you have that I wanted to touch on is in 2018, you were named to the Minnesota Golf Association board of directors. So can you just tell me about, this experience,
Yeah.
how were you named to the board of directors for the Minnesota Golf Association. And what did it
Yeah.
this position, what did it entail, being on the board of directors? Just tell me like what you did, any, roles or responsibilities you had for
Yeah.
Minnesota golf.
Yeah, this is kind of funny. So my parents just got in the mail a plaque that said that I was a board of director for 6 years.
Okay.
So in 2018, I ultimately got asked to help join. So I got nominated and approved, I ended up going to one meeting and the end of the year banquet. That's where I went. And then I moved to Iowa. So I actually didn't think that I was a board of director anymore. But ultimately it's a volunteer role where they're helping pass new rules, legislation in the Minnesota Golf Association. And it's huge volunteer organization opportunity where how can we grow the game of golf in Minnesota, and especially on the women's side, because a lot of the board members were men. I think there was three of us that were women. So just getting to a spot of, okay, like they wanted me in that role because I had graduated, but I was still playing. Whereas 95% of the players that played in college don't play anymore when they're done and graduate. So that was something that definitely super passionate about. I just left and didn't have the opportunity to like pursue more. But it's something that yeah, Iowa has the Golf Association too. If they asked me to do it, I would love to. Wish I could have done a little bit more, but still a super cool opportunity.
Yeah. So coach, just a few more things I wanted to touch on. So after Mankato, then you went to Earlham College in Indiana, where you were assistant men's and women's golf coach for a year. So can you just tell me, about your year at Earlham College, and then after Earlham, what drew you to Central College, after, coaching there for a year?
Yeah. So ultimately Earlham wasn't even a year, it was like 9 months because of
Okay.
COVID. So COVID happened right as we were supposed to leave for spring break in a couple days, and COVID started, like, became a big deal, and they ended up telling students that they were leaving, like school was closed. We had in I think 48 hours they created like a mock or a student-led graduation ceremony for the seniors, which was really cool experience, but really hard, like just a lot of turmoil, a lot of grief of going from being super excited to coach and like go to spring break to nothing because of COVID. And so ultimately loved my experience at Earlham. It was really great to be an assistant coach. And I think Matt Gehring was the head coach at Earlham at the time, and he started the program from nothing. There was no students there 4 years prior. So it was the fifth year, or no, I think it was the fourth year of students. He had started year 5 to help recruit.
Okay.
So we were kind of on the women's side, we were working on it. I had some recruits that I really liked coming in for next year. On the men's side, he had built a pretty good program pretty quickly. Biggest thing, I think I loved coaching the men, but it's not what my dream was. And I think that helped show me that I just wanted to coach the women. And I think ultimately that's what drew me to Central a lot. So what ended up happening is at the time that I was in Indiana, I was engaged. My husband, now fiance at the time, was living in Minnesota, and we go back because of COVID, or I go back to Indiana. He was still in Minnesota, and a couple weeks later, they cut the men's and women's golf programs. So I get a phone call telling me that I don't have a job anymore. And the Central job had been posted for a couple weeks already. I saw it. I knew it was my dream. It was way closer to home being from Minnesota. But I was like, do I want to live in Iowa for the rest of my life? Like, do I want to go closer? We already had everything planned. But then when it popped up that I didn't have a job anymore, I applied that day. Like, I applied right away. I get a phone call from our AD. He went to Minnesota State University-Mankato. He wrestled there. So we're talking, I get an interview. And the day I go to the in-person interview, I got offered the job. And about an hour later into my drive going back home, I get a phone call from the head men's and women's golf coach, or who was, and he said they're bringing golf back. Do you want your job? So in the same day, I had two job offers and had to decide what it looked like. But for a lot of, I had lost all the recruits that I brought in. There wasn't a whole lot of security there. And for a lot of reasons, looked at Central. I just think they were in a better spot. The world of college, anything right now financially is tough. A lot of tuition or just tuition is getting higher and enrollment numbers are getting lower and cost of everything is getting higher. So I think for a lot of reasons, being closer to home, having a job that I knew that they were going to be open and have both for the next 4 years was important because the guarantee at Earlham was that they were going to be open for the next 2 years. So it'd be really hard for me to recruit players if I were going to tell them, hey, we have golf for the next 2 years. I didn't want to lie to somebody. So yeah, really happy with the decision. I did like my time at Earlham. It taught me a lot, showed me how hard recruiting can be and how hard you have to work to recruit. But helped me in this role a lot.
Mhm.
And I think helped show me that Central was going to be a better landing spot and the dream job. It's a full-time job where I'm just coaching the women. We're the only school in our conference that has two full-time coaches, one for the men, one for the women. And it's kind of a unicorn position.
Yeah, well, so very interesting story. You had no job, then you had two job offers. So
Yeah.
I'm interested to know, you said your dream was always to, be a head women's coach. So what did it mean to you, in 2020, when you were offered, the head women's golf, job at Central College, what did that mean to you? And then can you tell me about your assistant coach, Mackenzie Biggs?
Yeah. Yeah, I was so excited.
Mhm.
It was like an 8 hour in-person interview. In the
Okay.
8 hours, it wasn't all like just me getting asked questions. They're showing me around Pella, kind of selling me the job, but ending the job, I got the offer, and I didn't think that was gonna happen, but yeah, I was excited because when you're an assistant coach at a small D3 school, coaching isn't about the money, right? And you're not making a ton and kind of barely making ends meet. So to get a full-time position and something with benefits, it was awesome. And it was nice too because my husband and I and my fiance at the time, husband now, we're getting married in like a month, and a half. Like or I think it was a month and a half. We got married in July, so we didn't know like where we were gonna live next. So to get that kind of like, okay, we know where we're going, we're gonna figure this out, helped a lot. And then yeah, Mackenzie Biggs, super awesome. So she's a volunteer. She took a job. She teaches music education. K through fourth grade at Pella Christian here in town. And she just graduated for me this last year. Tied for second with the lowest single season scoring average. Had the aspiration, like her goal was to beat it. She came like 0.2 strokes away. So it was really cool to watch like how hard she worked. And to do music education was just pretty much a double major in music and education. The girl did a lot and was involved in so many things. And I think having an assistant coach where she's not always there at practice, but at tournaments where we can have a second person there helping the players, especially if we have 10 players at a tournament, has been huge. And them learning from a player who's been at Central, loves Central, did everything at Central has helped a lot as well. It's one thing coming from me as a coach. It's another thing coming from one of their peers. I think the players look up to her a lot and appreciate all the help she's been doing.
Mhm. So finally, coach, what do you enjoy most about being a college coach?
That's a good one. Yeah, I love being a college coach. I think there's a lot of different things. I think the opportunities that it brings, getting to go on I'm excited. We're going to the Dallas Fort Worth area. It'll be driving, so it's a lot of driving for me, but driving there for spring break, getting to play there. We went on a trip to Scotland back in 2022. Or no, 2020, yeah, 2022. So the right before we won conference, we went to Scotland the end of May, early June. It was the year that the Open Championship was at St. Andrews, and we were at St. Andrews while most of the grandstands were up. So really cool experience to be able to see that, go to nationals, but then also really fun to watch young women grow into themselves, become adults, like grow out of their shell. I think it's funny, like seeing some of them go from being a freshman, shy, quiet to a leader as a senior. has been really, really awesome. And those are the things that, yeah, I love it. And then also just getting to be around the golf course. I love golf. I'm competitive. I want to win. So to be able to be in a spot where you get to do that is pretty enjoyable. It's fun to be able to wake up each day and know that you're making a difference in those ways. And the recruiting side of it too is kind of fun, helping players figure out, okay, where's the spot for them? This is my dream job. Where's their dream college? And sometimes that isn't always reality for them, but to figure out what's a good fit and where's a spot that they should be is always nice.